Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our show. I'm your producer, Jack Tunney, and we're coming to you live on tape from the Sandwich Studio in Oceanside, California. It's Thursday, September 10th, 2020. We have a great show for you today, starting, as always, with our first bite, where we will cover some of the biggest stories of this week. Then, we will dig into our sandwich, which will cover the ever-pressing coronavirus crisis. Finally, we will discuss a few good, feel-good stories, so you don't carry all the sadness we have to discuss with today's show in the milk. All that being said, let's hop into our show. Ladies and gentlemen, in association with SitRep Media, the hosts of PB&J Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the PB&J Podcast. My name is Peter Whitehead.
And what's up? My name is Brandon Blackmon. And how about we just jump right into the first bite today?
Yeah, let's just go right in. But I think Tunney covered our intro well enough. So for our first bite today, our first story in our first bite, Jacob Blake has spoken out from his hospital bed. We wanted to show you that clip real quick just so you have an understanding of what we're talking about. Go ahead and roll that, Jack Tunney.
I want to say, man, to all the young cats out there and even the older ones, older than me, it's a lot more life to live out here, man. Your life, and not only just your life, your legs, something that you need to move around and move forward in life, could be taken from you like this, man. And I promise you, the type of shit that you go through, staples, I got staples in my back, staples in my damn stomach. You do not want to have to deal with this shit, man. 24 hours, every 24 hours, it's pain, it's nothing but pain. It hurts to breathe, it hurts to sleep, it hurts to move from side to side, it hurts to eat. Please, I'm telling you, change our lives out there. We can stick together, make some money, make everything easier for our people out here, man, because there's so much time that has been wasted. I just want.
That was a nice, very non-political answer, you know. That was
Yeah.
human.
Yeah, no, I like it, because we all been, I even said it on the podcast the last podcast when we covered that situation. I was like, he's alive, so we get to like hear him speak about it. We get to hear him speak on what's going on. And I think that, I was obviously expecting something a little bit more political, but like this is better than what I was expecting actually, because this is just a dude. He's expressing what happened to him. He's expressing like the pain that he is in, the trouble that he has to go through now.
There was even some like remorse, like change your life, make your life better. There was, he didn't say this exactly, but there was kind of a tone of don't be like me, don't end up in situations like this. But also the hopefulness of go get some money, don't get wrapped up in the negativity because we always got to move forward.
Protect each other too, take care of each other.
Yeah.
It's a powerful message coming from a guy who was, shot 7 times. By all means should be dead, and he's still with us, God willing. So, we just wanted to show that to you real quick, do a little bit discussion on that.
Yeah. Thank you for that video, Jacob. For
yes.
real. In some other news, on to the Donald campaign news.
The Donald.
Updates on like his budget and what's been going on the monetary side over there. So kind of as some of us knew, compared to the Biden campaign, which had like a slower fundraising kind of grow, Donald Trump's campaign was blowing it out of the water with the fundraising. They had up to $1 billion at one point. And basically over time, we found out recently that most of this billion is gone. Almost half of it was spent solely on fundraising operations, events. So basically, I'm assuming those events were big wig, wine caves.
Right, the Buttigieg wine caves.
Beautiful, amazing fundraisers that if you're spending, half of your budget on these events, how much are you making off of these events? There's no way that could be, financially responsible. How'd you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's crazy to me that they spent like most of the money that they fundraised on fundraising and then still ended up short. Like that's very strange. But
they had to be wasting money on wine and cheese.
Right. And not on the donations themselves. So yeah, I mean, Trump has said in regards to this that he will pay with his own money like he did in 2016 in the primary. He spent a lot of his own money to run for office. He didn't do it in the general in 2016, but he says that he will dip into his own funds, personal funds, if necessary, to continue to run the campaign.
Shouldn't have to be like that though, Trump. That's not how elections should be run. That you should be blowing out.
Dude, frankly, elections should not cost this much money. Like, that's something that I said in the past. I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast, but like elections costs way too much to run for public office. Even some of the like lower end offices, like state offices, they say that you need like $1 million just to run for like a state office in California. $1 million fundraised or $1 million in personal spending that you will do, which is crazy. Like, why do you need that much money just to get to a place where you can actually make effective change?
And you have to look at the fact that it's profitable for these companies. Like, Brad Parscales, his former campaign manager for the Trump campaign, was fired, but this guy was at one point trying to become like an Instagram star. He was posting 5 cars, fancy mansions.
Right.
As he's getting paid by the campaign, you have to, wonder if he's skimming off the top or something. Because
I wonder that a lot with these people. And that's both sides of the spectrum, I would say. There's so much money in politics now that it's like, who knows what is happening in there? Who knows what kind of like shenanigans they're getting.
Well, we'll find out if you post it on Instagram. Don't do that, idiot.
But yeah, so Trump's in a little bit of cash crunch, but he'll be all right. It's nothing big. He'll dip into his own money if he has to continue to run the campaign the way that he plans to. The next little thing is the Senate is back in session. They're trying to pass legislation, and McConnell introduced what he is calling a targeted plan of relief. And he called this package a targeted proposal that focuses on several of the most urgent aspects of the crisis, the issues where bipartisanship should be especially possible. So that includes school aid, new money for vaccines and testing, and a second round of the popular Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, for smaller businesses. This plan is going to cost $500 billion. So as you can tell, that's down $500 billion from even the Republican plan before they went on break, which was $1 trillion. And then
there's a lot of problems with that.
And then obviously way down from what the Democrats wanted it with the HEROES Act, which was $3 trillion, $2 trillion, $3 trillion.
Which one?
The HEROES Act. The
second one, like the House one, the later one?
Yeah, the House, the later.
It was $3 trillion.
$3 trillion, yeah. And then the HEALS Act was $1 trillion. So this is like definitely a much smaller program that they're trying to push through. Democrats are not having it. They want, more comprehensive protections for people. And then, of course, the Republicans are using that as the Democrats don't want to get anything done, when in reality, they just don't want to see a plan get passed that doesn't help everybody that it needs to.
Or just has no
and then
long-term...
have the Republicans, wash their hands of it, right?
Exactly.
We passed the legislation. Why do we need to pass anything else,
And when you have like the small unemployment thing that is being enforced by the executive action, like that's only going to last so many weeks. There's no long-term funding, long-term kind of solution here. This is another bill that's just going to kick the ball down the road until we have to pick it up and deal with it again. So
yeah, and we will eventually have to deal with this. These mortgage payments are not going away. These people's credit card loan payments, student debt loan payments, they're not going away. They're just being pushed further and further down the line, and eventually those people will be asked to give that money up. So I'm not liking this new Senate plan. I don't think anybody with a brain is.
There are people being evicted right now, and
Currently.
literally, and Senate has no answer for those people.
Yeah.
Because why not? Find your own answer. But it's that they don't represent those people.
They don't want the, radical left progressive wish list that the Democrats have pushed forward. So, and that's in quotes because I don't believe that. It's not a wish list. It's like here's what we need. This is the the amount of money that we need. This is the help that these people need. And
not even stimulus checks. The fact that there's not even stimulus checks for rent.
Yeah. That makes me really sad.
Yeah, because, we don't have an answer right now. It's just going to be next week there's more people homeless, more people evicted, more people sick, more people hungry.
And more and more and more until that dreadful day in November.
Yeah, and another thing that could happen on that day when Trump gets reelected is continue his long-term plan of solidifying a conservative America. Personally, I don't think Trump was effective in a lot of the things that he set out to do with his, philosophy or agenda, whatever you want to call whatever he mashes together with Play-Doh and glue. But one thing that he was very, very good at was, hiring these conservative judges who would be appointed to these lifetime positions. So recently he came out with a short list of some very, very controversial Supreme Court nominees for his next term that he would try to squeeze in there in case a spot opened up.
Which likely it will. I will remind the audience. Likely there will be a spot that opens up in the next 4 years.
And also, he could just add...
If not two.
He could add Supreme Court seats whenever he wanted to if he really felt like becoming a fascist in a day.
It is within the president's power.
He could change America in a week if he added 20 people to Supreme Court and they passed things. And, that would be literally... All right, we have to revolution against this guy now. Yeah. But some of the people that were on this list, you got Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz as a Supreme Court judge?
I have never seen him do anything that would warrant
Does he even have a law degree?
No, I'm pretty sure he's like a business guy. I'm pretty sure he's got like a small business background or something. But
No, he attended Harvard Law School. Graduated magna cum laude in 1995. I doubted the Cruz. I should not.
I still disagree with him politically.
Me, please.
His politics are still terrible.
Yeah.
The next on that list, Tom Cotton. War hawk.
Yeah.
Wants to murder people in the streets, wants to murder protesters. So Trump, this list came out, and then the next morning, his Tom Cotton's next tweet was, "Well, I guess it's time to get rid of Roe v. Wade."
Ugh.
They're just not even hiding it anymore, Peter.
No.
They're just out here just.
No, they're telling the country exactly what they're gonna do, and there are people who are still like, I don't know if Biden will be better.
In other news,
we've
got some police reform news, or no, I wouldn't say police reform, just some updates, I guess. Mm-hmm. So we've got some police chiefs who have been forced to resign due to pressure from the protests. So Rochester, New York, there was a very, very dramatic and tragic case of police brutality.
Yeah, what's the guy's name?
Daniel Prude.
Daniel Prude.
He was
say David.
Mentally ill. I don't want to say it like that, but it seems like he was going through some kind of panic. He was in distress, and he was staying with his brother at the time or something like that, and his brother calls the cops because his mentally ill brother is out in the street running wild, and he can't control him.
Too, right? He was naked.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he calls the cops. The cops come. Somehow this guy ends up bagged with a bag over his head.
Well, I thought it was a shirt.
A shirt?
It looked like a shirt. It looked like cloth to me, and that was part of the problem because it was raining.
Wow.
And so I watched this video. It was raining, and
I couldn't watch the video.
They had put a cloth over his head because of COVID. He said that he was COVID positive, so it's part of the thing is to cover their mouth to with some form of protection to protect the police officers from possibly getting infected with COVID. But they practically waterboarded the guy to death.
And they're laughing at him and making a joke out of the situation because he's naked and dealing with something.
Yeah.
But so protests broke out, and the Rochester police chief, after so much pressure because he's misstepped and has been unable to handle the crisis, he was forced to resign. And so he stepped down recently. So hopefully we can get someone in there that is a little more responsive to the public and can actually stand up to the fire, because I really think it's so weak to resign like that and not answer to the public in a full way.
And it was the whole leadership of the Rochester police too. It was the police chief, the deputy chief, and 2 lieutenants stepped down.
The leadership.
Yeah, the whole leadership of the Rochester police.
Oh, but it's just some bad apples.
Yeah. So some crazy stuff with that.
But also in Northeast news, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is the biggest city in Connecticut, the police chief of Bridgeport was arrested on federal charges, wire fraud charges, because he apparently schemed and conspired
Conspired.
to steal the election for the police chief seat in the largest city. So you have to imagine how much power that seat has and the ramifications of false election. So that guy should definitely do time and go down hard.
Yeah.
But
It's good that they caught him, you know.
yeah, like criminals are getting caught, man. It's really, really satisfying. Like, don't steal elections. Don't be taking the taxpayers' money and flying a jet and
Yeah.
getting your hair done in the nail salon.
Yeah.
Pelosi, no.
I don't even know what she was doing there. She like tried to say it was like a joke or whatever. I'm not gonna talk about it, but
She got set up for sure.
yeah, for sure set up.
For sure set up. That's a bite right there.
Yeah. So, anything else on the police chiefs or?
No.
No, you're good. Okay. So yeah, these last two stories, a little international scale. There was an incident on Tuesday at the India-Chinese border in the Himalayas. And this is a border that's quite contentious, actually, in general. Like over the past couple of years, there's been some stuff. There was like a bunch of Indian soldiers were beaten to death.
This year, is that what you're talking about?
I don't know if it was this year. It might have been last year.
Yeah, there was like a brawl.
Yeah,
Like
well, they don't use guns there. So the reason that they don't use guns there is they don't want like open conflict between the nations. But there's a lot of tension.
I'm sure there
So
would
the
be.
soldiers will be like marching around with their guns, and then they run into each other, and they just throw down their guns, and they have like a fucking outsiders brawl.
Like this,
know?
this has happened a few times.
Yeah, this is not like
this year.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting way to deal with your
It's
like
really, really
stress.
weird. Like imagine seeing another enemy group on like a mountain, so you all cross a bridge or something.
Yeah, you drop your guns, you know,
In the
roll up your
Himalayas.
sleeves, like that's it, it's pretty fun. But this particular situation is less funny. They fired warning shots at each other. Indian and Chinese forces fired warning shots at each other, and each side is blaming the other for the start of the conflict
Every time.
And this breaks their rule. Like I said, there's like a rule that they have where they don't fire live rounds at each other. They don't do it because they want to keep tensions as low as possible. And these are two very large, like huge populations, nuclear powers. They both have nuclear weapons. China has like a little bit more, but so it's a dangerous situation, and it's very tense
I think it's
there right now.
I think it's funny you said outsiders because I always think these global conflicts are so reminiscent of like gang war and like
Yeah.
turf war and like
Yeah,
they're-
it's like, this is my line. You can't cross this line.
yeah, they're fighting over a line right now, and but there's millions of dollars in nuclear bombs behind it. That's the difference.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to do a quick update on that. Nobody died. It was just they fired some warning shots at each other.
People have died at other ones though.
Yes. Yeah.
Like this is like a thing. Like they run
They're
into each other
constantly
and they
running into
brawl
each other there because the area is contested.
like a
So
melee.
they don't. Yeah. No, they just like punch each other. But it's a contested area. They don't actually agree on where the line is. So when like China is in what they consider their territory, but India spots them and they're like, that's our territory. That's where you run into the issue. So yeah, you know, just a quick little update on that. I also wanted to talk about how Russia still be in the Cold War and poisoning people with nerve agents
They still be.
like twice in 2 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, they must have a good deal on it or something.
Yeah, well, they have stockpiles, I'm sure. But so yeah, the opposition leader in Russia, Alexei Navalny, I hope I'm saying that right.
Sounds right.
He was poisoned last month and flown to Germany for treatment. The poison that was used is a Soviet-era nerve agent. It's the very same poison that was used to poison the Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter in England in 2018, a couple years ago. Some people remember that.
Big story.
And England intelligence agencies later confirmed that the poisoning was done by Russian operatives. So we have evidence within the last 2 years that this very same nerve agent was used by Russian operatives to take out this, deserter or whatever they called Sergei. So yeah, Putin is still taking out political enemies. I mean, this guy was the oppositional leader. He did survive. They just took him out of a induced coma. So he's still alive, and he's in Germany currently.
They didn't even try to like hide the chemical agent, switch it up or
I
something?
mean, I
Like,
kind of don't think that Russia cares. I kind of don't think that they care that we think that they're that way.
who's stopping them?
Exactly. Because, like, we're not. When the England thing happened, we had some strong words. We pointed the finger. But
Is Navalny some super leftist? Like,
no.
I don't
no,
care.
he's oppositional. But, like...
Should we go in there and, like, fight them over this? No, but I think that when they're killing people who are, like, have escaped to Britain, like that other story, that's super insane.
Yes.
On something that I can relate to a little more. But the fact that they're in Russia, they're just poisoning each other, and Putin's just got his hand on the button,
Yeah.
like that, it's horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it calls back Soviet, like, era feelings, about Russia for certain. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting that they keep doing it. Like we know it's their nerve agent. They use the very same nerve agent. So yeah, that's interesting. That wraps up our first bite, though. We're gonna get into the sandwich here, and our sandwich today is a big juicy one. It's
A summer of coronavirus.
the coronavirus and updates on the coronavirus and policy around the coronavirus. So let's jump into it. First, what we're going to do is kind of just go over like the basics of what is happening with the coronavirus. So we're going to talk about case numbers and deaths in the U.S., policy and things, and then case numbers and death on a world scale. Mm-hmm. So as for the U.S., as of September 9th, the case number stands at 6.3 million in the U.S. That's up 300,000 just in the last week. So that's up 1% of our population in just the last week. 10%. No, 1%.
Usually it's like 2%. No.
And we're just about to hit 190,000 deaths. So we're approaching 200,000 deaths, which I remember, they were saying some stuff in like April or May. They were like, we think that there's going to be 100,000 deaths in this country. We're doubled that now, which is pretty crazy. That all those numbers are from the CDC.
Name any other event in human history or, just specifically American history where almost 200,000 people have died over the course.
There isn't one.
There's nothing like this that's ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, like, how many people died on 9/11?
1,800?
Yeah, so, like that was, like, the worst, ground or home ground attack that has ever happened to the United States, right, was 9/11. And, this disease has killed
100 times that.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. The states that are being hit the hardest right now are California. We're very big. So
as I scratch my nose.
738,000 cases in California. Florida with 642,000 and Texas with 641,000.
Yeah. So officially, like, our largest, most populous, like, metropolitan areas were ravaged.
Yeah. The national forecast for the month of September and early October is that the daily death will continue to climb and that the daily new cases will continue to decline for some time. But experts do say that we are far away from the end of this. Like we'll talk a little bit more about like the idea of vaccines and things, but we're a long time from, a sense of normalcy, certainly in this country. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how demographics are affected in the U.S. before I get to the international scale. Black Americans are disproportionately infected and killed by the virus. They account for 13% of the population, but are 19% of infections nationwide and 21% of deaths nationwide. So what disproportionate means is that is greater than their population size. The same is true for Hispanics and Latinos on cases. So the Hispanics / Latinos are 16% of the U.S. population, yet account for 30% of all cases. Their deaths are right around 16% though, so that's proportional. But their cases are way off of proportion. White people remain disproportionately unaffected. They are 76% of the U.S. population, but are only 41% of the cases and 51% of the deaths. And I also wanted to talk a little bit
That
about...
is truly disproportionate, though.
Majorly.
Compared to the other ones, like 76 versus 40 is a vast difference.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I also wanted to talk a little bit about like the age thing, because, you know, that's one of the things that was pretty major with this virus, is that it kills old people, but tends not to be as deadly for young people. And this is true. But recent data also shows that 18 to 29-year-olds are more likely to catch the virus, sitting at 22% of all infections, which is the highest percentage of infections across the age groups. So, yeah, I mean, we're in a tough spot. And especially, I mean, the disproportional effect on minorities just highlights some of the stuff that we were talking about last week, you know.
And it personally annoys me when I feel like more mainstream news kind of just puts that out as the headline and leaves it there, kind of leaving people to kind of form their own analysis of it. Like, oh, I guess black people are dirty, they're more likely to get sick, or, you know, that kind of thing. But I feel like this point always needs such a full analysis of wealth and density and who's more likely to live in urban areas. Like, we live in San Diego.
Who is more likely to work a job that requires personal connection?
Yeah.
Black people.
We live in
Minorities.
San Diego, where it's not dense at all. And you could go weeks without seeing anybody, going just to the supermarket, coming back home. Like, we're not a city. We're not, like, I mean, there's like bar areas, but there's areas where it's destined to spread, which is going to be the inner cities, the urban areas, the small areas, the tight-knit communities. And, you know, usually wealthier areas aren't that tight-knit. Let's be honest. I'm not going to leave my mansion and go hang out with the other mansions. It's a little different.
It is. It's quite different. And you know, like I said too, if you're working a job like a fast food job, a grocery store job, service industry job of any kind, which we know minorities are more likely to work than white people.
The working class.
The working class. You're more likely to catch the virus because you're interacting with people during your job. So it seems pretty clear. Like, yeah, they're not dirtier people. They're just people who are in closer quarters.
I mean, we also have to take the race and the wealth kind of concept into the unemployment conversation as well. Like,
they're disproportionately affected as well from unemployment.
White people are more likely to not be working class. They're more likely to be, you know,
like
in the higher corporate jobs where they don't even have to go in ever.
Yeah.
Like, those people are not affected by the economic struggle. They're still making money off their stocks. There is a certain population of people, and I don't want to make it always about race, but you know, there's a certain population of people who were never struggling during this crisis. They never worried. They never were like, oh, I never even go to the city. I'll never get sick at all. So, like, there is a different world out there, and I feel like that's kind of who Congress will speak to more, instead of answering to the eviction crisis or unemployment or...
Yeah, I mean, they're right. They're coming after the small business, the payroll protection program that small businesses, and then like schools, right? That's what the schools, money for vaccines and testing. So yeah, that's like not helping the lower class really. You know, it's like helps the middle class.
There's people that need to pay rent, and their paycheck is $300 every 2 weeks, or, you know, $800 a month. Like, that is exactly rent. And that's minimum wage in America.
Yeah.
Especially during coronavirus, where hours are being cut. And
But yeah, I mean, we're in a tough spot here in this country for sure. We're the number one in the world for cases and for deaths on a proportion to a population size. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the worldview here, the international. So right now, the world is sitting at 27.5 million cases, almost 30 million cases, and almost 1 million deaths worldwide. So that's pretty big. I can't remember the 1918 plague, what that looked like at this time, but I guarantee you we're
I mean, I remember last month it was slowly creeping up on 750,000.
yeah.
We were just blowing these milestones out of the water, and the predictions and the projections of where it would go.
Yeah. So, at the end of the virus, the H1N1 virus in 1918, the Spanish flu, as they call it, the nomenclature, there was estimated to be at least 50 million deaths worldwide. That was over a 2-year span. 675,000 of them occurring in the United States.
What was that?
50 million deaths worldwide in 2 years.
In the United States number.
Oh, the United States number was 675,000. So we're actually not very far from that right now.
Trump.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Donald a little bit more.
You nasty,
but
nasty man.
Let's keep going on this. The case and death numbers from a few of the key countries in the world, the countries that are dealing with it the harshest. So, India comes in second behind us, of course, for case number, with 4.3 million cases and 73,000 deaths.
They're still so far behind us in deaths.
Yeah, hugely behind us in deaths, and their population is like 3 times ours, somewhere around that. So, and then Brazil, 4.1 million cases, 126,000 deaths, and then the Russian Federation with 1 million cases. But they remarkably only have 18,000 deaths. So, of course, you can't trust everything that comes out of Russia, as we were just talking about with the poisoning. But it appears that they're handling it pretty well, all things considered.
On a global scale, I did want to talk about something I saw from India. Like back when the quarantine started and the lockdowns began, there was this amazing coverage done by Vice, I believe. And they were covering
Shout out Vice.
kind of the migrant worker population in India, because there's a massive group of people who depend on, daily work, trying to find the day job, and, standing on the street, hoping that someone can offer them a job. It's a massive population of people who don't live in the city usually. They travel in and out. Mm-hmm. So when the lockdown happened, all of these people were told that they had to leave the city. Millions of people were sent home from India's population centers. One, removing workers, so these workers couldn't get paid, and then the jobs couldn't find workers for their jobs.
Yes.
So on a more extreme level than just telling people to stay at home in America, in India, there was an absolute wipeout of the workforce.
Yeah.
It's a different level of economic crisis there. People aren't allowed to work in the city anymore if they aren't living there.
That's crazy. And and you're saying that was how many people?
Millions.
Wow.
Like you just said that their population is up in the billions. So you have to imagine
it's 1.3 billion or something.
The scale there is different. It's absolutely different. So and then also when you're thinking about how easy it'll spread in the dense environments. So it's just our mess ups in America will spread back out into the world in countries that are even less able to handle these these health crises.
Well, we lead the world, right, in a lot of categories. And if people look at us and they're like, oh, this is what we're doing, what's the international opinion of us right now is probably very low.
Also, you got to make the point that all 3 of these countries are led by right-wing authoritarians.
Yeah. Modi in India. Who's Brazil?
Freaking Erdogan.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's
Erdogan's,
Turkey.
No, Brazil's Bolsonaro or something. Yeah,
I'm thinking of freaking Turkey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like Bolsonaro.
Jair Bolsonaro, who caught COVID, didn't he?
Yeah, he caught it twice.
Yeah.
That was weird too.
And then of course Vladimir Putin. So yeah, these guys are authoritarians.
Continue.
But we beat out all of them. America first. I wanted to talk about a success story really quick. Africa is doing surprisingly well with this virus. A lot of countries in there are doing really, really well with this virus. And White people are having a hard time explaining that, as they normally do, with phenomena occurring in Africa. But I wanted to talk about Rwanda specifically, a white person talking. But yeah, so Rwanda is testing people at random in the street with a 5-minute process. The government pledged that they were going to identify every single case in Rwanda. And this is a country who is categorized as a low-income country with limited resources by the World Bank. So this is like, they don't have our resources. They don't have, our style of government, our effectiveness of government. They don't have any of those things. And yet they have a population, their country is 12 million people, and their cases are just over 1,500. For some proportionality on that, Ohio has a similar population size, around 12 million, and it's been recently reporting roughly 1,200 cases a day. So Rwanda has only 1,500 cases total, and Ohio, which has a similar population, is getting that almost that much every single day. So testing works. And we're going to talk a little bit about, the Donald's claim later that we are the most aggressive testers in the world and we have the most advanced testing system in the world. We're going to talk about all of that. But this seems to be the way. They're controlling it. They're controlling the spread. They're tracing their people, and they're capable of holding it down. So I just wanted to throw a success story in there because I feel like often when you talk about COVID, it's like all this death and all this like terrible things that have the economic crises that are occurring. But there are places that are being successful in fending it off.
Yeah. Same thing with the vaccine too. Like there is progress happening on that. It's just about remembering that Trump he's not by himself here. He is an evil aberration, but
yeah,
we're still making progress in life. It's just about respecting the beast, like respecting the virus for what it is, a deadly pathogen,
a very deadly thing,
something that we have never seen before in our lifetimes, but also in 100 years. So it's just about.
But it's a hoax. It's
Yeah.
the new hoax.
It's the new hoax. The
new democratic hoax, coronavirus.
What's
that? That was like February. He was saying that shit.
Yeah, it was way after the Bob Woodward tape. Way after.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that too. Stay tuned.
But the thing I got from Rwanda was that they came out and said, we are taking a hard stance against Corona. This is a real crisis, and we're going to do everything in our power to do it and to take care of it.
Yeah, and again, a low-income country, not a very strong government, not very strong in economic standing, and they were able to do it. 1,500 cases total, 12 million people.
Just respect the crisis. Respect what's going on in the world. Like, this is not about...
It's not about your petty politics.
It's not about Trump. It's about everything. But so that's kind of what I was going to get into in the next section about the reopening of schools across the country, because I feel like there is very little of a national stance, a hard line on how to protect the students, protect the teachers, while also continuing to allow for an actual beneficial school environment. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of want to start with the colleges, because we are college age. Most of the people watching are probably college age, or high school or whatever. No judgment. But
all you old people out there that watch our show, we love you too.
I'm sure for all of our California fans, you probably heard of CSU Chico State.
Fucking Chico.
One of the more popular party schools in California. Very, very iconic.
Extremely iconic.
Like I'm not from here, yeah. So I heard about Chico, and it's an iconic school for being a party school.
Well, there's like nothing in that town, so they have to party because there's like literally nothing else to do.
So I'm sure that's what they did.
Yeah.
So a week after CSU Chico returned to school, Butte County, is that how you pronounce it?
Booty?
Butte?
I think it's Butte, yeah.
I wasn't going to say booty. I wrote it down though.
I see that. I'm looking at it right here. Booty County. We should just call it that for the rest of the...
Butte County reported 464 new cases in the first week after the reopening of Chico. And most of those cases being between the 18 through 24 age range, kind of like what Peter was saying earlier. Mm-hmm. And it was hard for me to kind of process this kind of, returning to school, sending the kids back home because I'm at online school. I was never going back to school, but the schools have been open for certain classes, certain in-person classes that can't be offered online. The dorms have been opened, so people are living on campus. So we have to assume that people have been partying.
In the frat houses and sorority houses too, they're open as well for housing.
Yeah. So the president says that they gave it their best shot, and that even though they tried to stop people, they gave warnings that,
I'm just waiting for Trump to say that, dude.
Yeah, like, what do you mean?
I gave it my best shot.
You gave it your best shot? No, you need to take a lot of shots. You need to keep shooting.
And some accountability, please.
Yeah, exactly, because they always blame it on students partying and not on the fact that people are going to class and gathering on campus activities. So schools have been closing and sending students home now. Chico is one of them. University of Wisconsin-Madison, SUNY in New York, the State University of New York, have sent students home who were living on campus because, they still wanted to charge these students for tuition, which I think is so disgusting. Like, they want them to live on campus. They offer the on-campus amenities while offering the warnings of COVID to make it on the liability of the students and the families. And so the classes don't have to provide any, extra liability, I guess. And another California school that has been dealing with COVID is SDSU. There's been
SDSU
outbreaks on campus as well. Another kind of party school. I wouldn't, say it's a party school, but there is definitely a scene out there.
There are parties at every school, right?
Yeah.
But SDSU is definitely higher up on the party scene for sure. I'm sure there's a website you could look all of this up. Where to go if you want to have the best parties?
Nah. You gotta know. If you know, you know. But if you don't know, then you don't know. So you gotta hit me up.
You know.
But just the fact that they advertise and it's almost like a bait, like why start an open school for a week and then send the students back home? So they're catching COVID at school and then bringing it back to their hometown.
To their parents.
Yeah. So that was a warning that Dr. Fauci actually put out. He said, don't send students back to their hometowns, especially if they live out of state, because that's exactly how it's transferred. Another huge school that responded to COVID was the Texas A&M University. So they took a hard stance, I found. They tried their best to, enforce social distancing in the classroom, having less students come to school,
right.
having like the A students and B students. So some students come on this day, some students come on this day, the splits. But they found out that it was very, very hard to, keep this like in motion because people were still getting sick. It's way more expensive to enforce new policies like buying the dividers, buying the PPE for teachers. Like, they wanted to.
Yeah, my mom's an educator. She had to buy her own divider. Not gonna say which district she's in. I don't want to
like a plastic shield.
Yeah, like a plastic shield so that she can teach her kids and stuff. They said that they're gonna provide it or whatever, but I don't know. So you saw that image, right? Of the it was like on all over Twitter. It was super viral, and it was like, oh, they provided like a screen protector for social distancing in class with the teacher, and it was the teacher's desk. They had just like hung a curtain, like a see-through.
I really didn't see that.
Yeah, no, that was like their oh, we're protecting you from the virus by like this like
a shower curtain.
Yes, like a see-through curtain.
That ain't doing
right
nothing.
In front of the desk.
That shit ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, and then all the seats were still like close together and like. What you doing there, Brandon?
It's gonna go straight over, straight down into your breathing area.
That's the
Kobe. All right. So, but in response to all this, what I would call negligence by the schools, because they're advertising a safe environment, knowing it's not safe, and
we do what we do best now, right? That's what we're doing in response. We're doing what we do best.
Oh yeah, we're raising hell. All across the country, students have been raising hell on this. Yeah. Specifically at NYU and the University of Michigan, but Even the California State Universities have started protesting, which I think is really interesting because there's actually a no strike policy at the CSU system. So what they were doing was they were taking class time to teach, and they could either teach about like the Black Lives Matter movement or education. So one of my classes, the teacher talked about why LA needed more education funding, and one teacher talked about her connection with the Black Lives Matter movement. So teachers were striking and just taking their voices back, I guess, in an online venue. Yeah. But also there was even in-person protests at the University of Michigan, and I really like this quote from a student from the University of Michigan who said that her university has started to act more like a business. They even raise tuition over the summer, and they see us more as commodities than as students.
Oh.
Because if your student is paying $5,000 a semester, that's a luxury good right there. That's a high value like profit margin right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So
schools have gotten increasingly more like for profit. Like what happened was this bureaucratic like expansion. So the bureaucracies in schools have gotten way bigger. There's vice deans of all sorts of like random shit now,
and all the different departments. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it like got super bloated.
Yeah.
And that's why school is more expensive than it was 25 years ago. Is because of that.
And I'm sure with all of the the recessions that we've had, there's some kind of hollowness to some of the budget in some places, especially in California. But
But
yeah,
what about
that also,
the kids?
That also connects to NYU. Hold up.
Okay.
When I cover another school, NYU's like return to school plan sounds exactly like the back to work plan that Trump and the Republicans were forcing down people's throats in cities that still have insane coronavirus rates. NYU is in the middle of New York. So the fact that NYU has decided to, have a pretty much like an ad marketing campaign of NYU returns, and they're, in the same sense as Michigan, they're increasing tuitions and forcing people to pay without, offering refunds if they don't feel like, coming to school, if they don't feel safe coming to school. Like, they're not providing safe options for students. They're saying return to school or suck it up and eat the loss. So students are picking up other options, right? Like, why wouldn't you just pick another option at that point?
Yeah, a lot of people are choosing to defer and go to community colleges for their general education and things like that, which I do recommend, actually. Like, you really shouldn't be spending this, however much a year on a school that's not even going to teach you in person. You'll get virtually the same education at virtually. Yeah, you'll get virtually the same education at a community college. Like, this is especially for incoming freshmen. I know a lot of you guys have already decided what you're going to do, but like, it's going to be a while before you see in-person classes again. And that's kind of the hype of a university. The reason you go to a university is for, the party scene and the, slightly better teachers because they're tenured or whatever. And there's like a thing with that. But if you're not getting the classroom experience, like, these tenured professors are no better at the virtual experience than these community college professors. They're no better. And you're going to be taking mostly general eds in your early years anyway. So you don't need like the highest quality of professor to give you your general ed. So I strongly recommend you defer your acceptance and go to a community college for at least this semester, if not next semester.
Yeah.
And
especially
then,
if you're still planning on taking classes and everything.
Yeah, and then just go back into your school when it's more normalized, and you're not paying as much. I think that's a much better option for people.
Yeah, so that's what's happening in our colleges and our universities. But the kids, we have to think about the middle school age, the grade school kids.
Think about the children.
Because they don't know what's going on.
No, they don't. I saw something made me and my mom cry. On CNN, they do on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. They do a Sesame Street, like ABCs of COVID, and they like express it to like little kids what is happening, why it is necessary to be safe and things like that. And that made me so sad because they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, no.
They're just like at home and they can't see their friends, and like their mom's stressed out, and like everything's scary right now, I'm sure.
I mean, like they freak out watching like Disney movies.
Yeah.
You know? So I actually also talked to some unnamed teachers off the record, and they were telling me some of their experiences with teaching like adults, like, because I feel like the environment of teaching a high school is very different than teaching, middle schoolers and 5-year-olds, first graders, and that kind of thing. So just the idea of these little kids on Zoom trying to focus, trying to use Google Docs, like we have children trying to manage Google Docs and trying to help their teachers, make a class happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you and I, we can use Google Docs, we can be self-sufficient. We have teachers who have never used Zooms. We have little kids who have never used Zoom, and they're supposed to come together and make this system work.
Yeah, like 4 hours a day too, of class on Zoom.
Yeah, like, and they're supposed to sit there and pay attention. Like,
yeah,
it's not possible. It really is not possible. But also on the other hand, that we do have to be blessed that we even have that option of.
Well, right. Think about like, we were talking about the Spanish influenza earlier. They didn't have internet. They didn't have
what did they do?
Distance learning. They closed the schools. They closed the schools for 2 years.
People
and
homeschooled if they had the ability to. I mean,
and a lot of people weren't capable of going into work and things like that. So,
I mean, you also have to think about the education rates back then. It wasn't like people were very able to teach.
Yeah, that was kind of the start of the, like public education time period was right in there. That was like after the progressive era and everything. So, that was like right at the start, but it wasn't necessary for everyone, everyone goes through public school now, but back then it wasn't everyone, but a lot of kids missed out on a lot of school in that time. And we're very blessed that we have this kind of technology that we can, even just to connect with people,
with all of its
like with
glitches.
your family and with your friends and things. You can FaceTime them, you can Zoom them, you can do all sorts of things. We're extremely blessed to be able to do that in this particular pandemic.
Yeah, but there are still some extreme, drastic damages that are being done to these kids just from the fact that their world has been ripped from them. There is some simple trauma to that'll happen when your world has been radically changed and you don't have the cognitive ability to, understand that and, accept it, So I wanted to talk about, say a quote from this professor of pediatrics, psychiatry, and public health from the Louisiana State University. Professor Osofsky says that there are developmental differences in terms of how children are impacted by grief and loss and how they understand it. And a main thing that this article was doing was kind of comparing this crisis to other crises because there really hasn't been anything like this. So there isn't much studies that have been done kind of examining how, children react when they've been ripped from school for a long period of time. So she goes on to say that after Hurricane Katrina, we saw a lot of problems. People reported depression, anxiety, and symptoms of post-traumatic stress. Particularly in the young children, preschool ages, these children were very dysregulated in their behavior and emotion, and they didn't want to separate from their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So
I imagine you'd see a similar thing around 9/11 as well.
Yeah, just like having these questions and needing answers and
parents not having the answers.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Cause like you think about a situation like 9/11 or like coronavirus, like these parents don't actually have the answer. They don't have the answer.
I mean, cause like if I was that kid, all I want is like a hug.
Yeah.
And I would need it like all the time, like at school. And that's why I would be freaking out because I just don't understand. It's not like, and it's not like a teacher can just go and explain COVID-19 and 9/11 or Katrina or any of those things to a kid. So in some cases, it's even harder for a child to adapt to this kind of environment, I would say. It's harder. She also goes on to say that after the Fukushima nuclear disaster, the Japanese government changed how young children were taught about radiation, changing how the world addresses kids, how they bring them up. So they're a little more adaptable to these kind of environments because they've been introduced to these topics before. And then Australian communities learn about wildfires from an early age. One way schools could help to ease children's anxiety is by educating them in an age-appropriate way about the risk of viral outbreaks and by encouraging hand washing and physical distancing. See, that's important, that the education on just not disasters, but just the extreme. I think it is important to introduce that to children at a young age, because these topics of death, war, destruction, I mean, even politics, like they can become very traumatic to, the 19-year-old who gets hit with all that information at once. You know? So I think it's important that we start with the kids, because I mean, when I was a kid, I wasn't thinking about polio. I wasn't thinking about measles. I wasn't thinking about that stuff. I didn't even care about washing my hands. None of that stuff got through to me as a little 6-year-old. I was just a dirty little boy. Like, there needs to be some kind of...
Brandon is a dirty boy.
Yeah, I still am. Most people are. That's why there's 6 million people sick.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that it needs to start from the bottom, and just enforcing a more community-minded philosophy for our children, instead of the individualism that we have so deeply rooted in our culture.
Definitely.
Like, that's what's killing people.
Yeah, because it's like, well, they don't see past what is their own problem, right? I want to party with my friends. I miss partying with my friends. 100 people die in the town, 3 weeks later. Like,
and then
it's like, come on.
And then, like, we're so focused on the now, we don't realize that these diseases like polio and measles, they only just went away 60, 70, 80 years ago. They could easily have a resurgence if
the measles did have an insurgence or a
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, like,
resurgence.
They just seem like these old antique ideas that us modern, sophisticated Americans would never have to deal with a dirty disease. But here we are.
Part of my yawn.
Here we are, humbled, I would say, by nature. So to fight this off, we are working on a vaccine. The world, dozens of companies, hundreds of companies probably are working, not exactly hand in hand, but in the same race to provide a safe vaccine for the people. So a big story this week was about one of the larger vaccine trials being put on pause because of a rarity that happened after the trial. Basically, an infection started. One person received like spinal inflammation from the vaccine. So just because of extra risk, extra precautions, they stopped all trials with that vaccine. So it was only one person. But it's still something to be, afraid about, to draw concern. So
right. Well, I am worried about the rushing of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's valid to be. So I wanted to address that concern because there are a lot of people that are concerned about that. So the WHO came out in response and said that the World Health Organization.
Thank you.
The WHO, the band.
The WHO, the band.
The World Health Organization came out and said that it was a wake-up call for those who are eagerly waiting for a vaccine. What they were meaning by that was that people who are rushing it, people who are anxiously waiting for the vaccine to come by next month or per se before the election, that this is not going to happen fast. These companies are still doing the right thing and taking it slow and making sure that they're saving lives, because they don't want to rush it through and end up killing 10 people with a spinal inflammation disease when they can just, slow it down and keep track of it, like before it explodes. And in the same vein, Fauci was saying that this is a normal thing. It's not uncommon.
With vaccines, it's a normal.
It's not uncommon for trials to be paused. So these vaccines, they're steamrolling ahead. And we also have a cosign from the National Institutes of Health, the chief, and the FDA chief have confirmed their duty to, provide a non-political final say over the vaccine. They want to show that they have an abundance of caution. They want to show that they have not been polluted by the political nature of the Trump campaign And they are really just trying to convince the people that they can trust in other institutions other than just the executive branch, that the scientists will have the final say.
And they should, because they're the experts.
Yeah, and not only that they should, but they will. And like Fauci came out, he said, "I will never be muzzled. Y'all could never muzzle me. I'm a boss doctor."
Boss doctor.
Fauci is such a boss, man. Like
Yeah.
he is just.
Well, he served under like 4 presidents. He's like the longest serving infectious diseases.
I mean, he was
like,
there during AIDS.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. This
Yeah.
guy really knows what he's doing.
he's not gonna let Trump's games stop his work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that's true. And even though we do have institutions that protect us, we do have to remember that Trump is still a strong person and his messaging can poison a conversation. So it is understandable, like you said, for you to have some concerns, some fears about the safety of a vaccine, the health of it, because we do have a political president who's rushing it through because he wants to win an election.
Yeah.
Someone who
So what do you think about the claim that there will be a vaccine by election day? In your research, what did you see on that?
See, Fauci he doesn't say that there will be a vaccine before the election, but he does say that he does see a vaccine being passed out by early 2021, which I think is super interesting because even that seems super early to me because the original predictions were like 2 years. So
They are expediting it because it's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's the world stage, right? So
yeah, I mean, the thing is that there's dozens of companies working hard on it. So I only really think it's a matter of time. I don't have a prediction on it. I just think that it's happening very fast. Like it's happening. Like it's not just a conversation. We could seriously have a vaccine by like next summer. Like that's my prediction.
that would be cool. I would like that. I think I said that pretty early on that I think you probably won't see like an active vaccine that's in the population until the middle of next year.
Exactly what Fauci said was the more likely scenario is that we will know by the end of this calendar year, and hopefully we'll be able to start vaccinations in earnest as we begin early 2021.
Okay, cool.
So the guy who's not being muzzled, he's spreading some hope. So, I mean, I've taken his word this entire time, so I feel good about that. But someone who was kind of agreeing with the point you were making, Kamala Harris was agreeing that Donald Trump's political rhetoric on vaccines and trying to use it for election gains is a very scary idea.
Do we have that clip?
Yeah, if you could set that up, because I like to get her exact quote because the way they are spinning her words to make her seem like an anti-vax supporter and just this is pure Republican nonsense right here. Let's get Kamala up.
For sure.
Do you trust that in the situation where we're in
Socially
now,
distanced.
that the public health experts and the scientists will get the last word?
So also
on
CNN
efficacy
is
of
posing the
vaccine?
question to her.
Past
She's
is
not bringing it up
full
out of nowhere.
They will not.
The question
They'll
was
be
posed.
muzzled. They'll be suppressed. They will be sidelined because he's looking at an election coming up in less than 60 days, and he's grasping for whatever he can get to pretend that he has been a leader on this issue when he's not.
So
second
let's
half
just
is
say
what
there's
they're
a
quoting.
vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us. I will say that I would not trust Donald Trump, and it would have to be a credible source of information that talks about the efficacy and the reliability of whatever he's talking about. I will not take his word for it.
It's a beautiful quote.
Totally normal. Like, she said, I'm not making it about Trump. I would never take his word because he has a terrible track record for a long time, has lied and said whatever he can for his political gain.
And then Fox News takes that. Tucker Carlson takes that, right? And he's just like, anti-vaxxer.
So we've got the radical Democrats, and they're now spinning anti-vaccination, anti-science claims. Like they're
I
literally
like when
saying
they
this.
accuse us of what they're guilty of. That's like my
Yeah,
favorite
it
of
hurts
all
my
time.
brain. It hurts my brain.
Yeah.
They're
Like-
ruining the conversation.
Yeah. I bet we could find a Tucker Carlson anti-vax clip. I bet you could find that easily. I don't know if that, I'm not going to like search for it right now, but I bet you could find that easily.
I think they just ignore that stuff, but
Yeah.
just they know what they're doing. They know exactly what argument they're spinning. Like, they know how sick it sounds. Like, she's not saying anything that is trying to discredit a real vaccine. She's just saying that
She wouldn't touch the Donald.
Donald
which
Trump.
I wouldn't either.
Donald Trump is not the spokesperson for vaccines. He is the president. He should not have the final say over the efficacy of a vaccine, as she said. So we got Trump, making a mess of people's words, trying to dominate the conversation, as always.
Are we going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and his words now?
And this guy is the same guy that has, bungled this thing from beginning to end, and he just needs somebody else to blame. He needs to turn it into something else that isn't his direct failures.
My favorite headline of this last 2 weeks is Donald Trump tours what will be Biden's America. It's like, no, this is your America, my
No, that's
guy.
you right now, today.
That's what you did. You did that. But yeah, you all good on that one? Anything else?
Man. I just want to say that there is an end to the coronavirus. We will.
One day it'll disappear. It'll be like a miracle. It'll disappear.
No, it's
It'll
not
go
going to
down
disappear.
to zero.
The thing about my position is that it's not going to disappear. We worked for this. We social distanced for months. We wore masks. Our scientists researched. They studied. All Trump did was sit on his ass and act like it didn't happen
And lie.
and lie. He didn't mislead. He lied.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. This last little bit of the sandwich is going to talk about the Trump administration's failures. So first, I want to talk about just some quick fact checks of the Donald. Here's the first claim, and I will do my impression for you all. We do more testing in this country than anywhere in the world.
The best testing.
The best testing. Everyone tells us. Some people tell us that you can do too much testing. Do you know that? Did you hear that,
Exactly.
Brandon?
No, I didn't hear.
Sometimes you can do too much testing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's read the books, read the manuals. You'll find out that you can do too much testing.
Oh, what books? Let me check. Let me write
The
it down.
manuals.
The manual.
Yeah, just read the manuals.
Is there a title to that?
No, there's no title.
Is there an ISBN?
There is no manual.
Is there an ISBN number?
But yeah, so his claim is that we do more testing in this country than anywhere in the world. Let's take a look at that. Here in the U.S., we test around 1 in 780 people. Let's compare that with South Korea, which has tested more than us with 1 out of every 150 people. So while we may have the highest number of tests done, that is because we have a large population size. So we are not actually meeting the need of our population, only testing 1 in 780 people.
Do you remember where you were the first time you found out Trump didn't know what per capita was?
Yeah, I was sitting in my bed watching the Axios interview and losing my cool.
Yeah. He doesn't know what per capita is.
You can't do that. You have to do it based on cases.
On total.
On total cases. You can't do it on population.
No. You gotta.
Why can't I do that?
You gotta normalize it and compare
Why
them
can't I
to
do
the
that?
other countries on the same rate, on a normal rate. You
It's
gotta.
ridiculous. But yeah, so we are not testing more than anybody in this world. We are testing at a higher volume. That is it. It is
Higher
not.
volume.
It is not per capita. Here's the second claim. Last year, 37,000 Americans died from the common flu. Nothing is shut down. Life and the economy go on. Think about that. So yeah, the death rate for the flu is 0.1%. And the death rate for COVID currently sits at 3.4%. So this is not a flu. This is a very dangerous thing that we are dealing with right now.
Also, the flu is proven to be less
Transmittable. Yeah, less infectious.
So, nonsense point again from Donald
Nonsense. And then the third claim, which is we have taken the most aggressive actions to confront the coronavirus.
Trump. Oh, did they?
They are the most aggressive actions taken by any country in the world.
That's not even true. If he
So
China
yeah,
literally shut down everything.
yeah, no, they shut down. They were forcing people to stay in their homes and stuff. So while we did have sweeping restrictions and there were some quarantine measures.
Some.
Other countries have taken aggressive actions as well to counter the virus, in some instances more than the U.S. has. China and Italy, for example, introduced widespread quarantining affecting millions of people. The EU has closed its external borders for at least 30 days, with some European states closing their borders to any non-nationals, as well as introducing severe restrictions on movement. So we have no quarantine. We have a stay-at-home order, but we have no forced quarantine. We have, our borders are shut to some places, but our borders are not shut to all national. This is not the most aggressive measures
even
that have been
interstate
taken.
travel. Interstate travel is still allowed.
These are
zonies.
by no means the most aggressive. Like, they are certainly aggressive actions, right? Like, we got China pretty early. That's always his talking point.
Oh, he enforced the Defense Production Act. That was aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't really do anything with it, but he enforced it.
Yeah. It's just
Passive aggressive.
He's just lying all the time. And in fact, we now know that he was lying for the whole time, and he wasn't just being dumb either. Because part of the contention that I have about the Donald is that he's actually stupid.
Yeah.
Right? That it's not like he's this evil mastermind or anything like that. It's just that he has an okay mind for numbers and thinks he's more intelligent than he is because he's been rich a long time and people tell him how smart he is. And he just fumbles,
processing. He can't process.
Yeah.
And read.
Well, yeah, he can't. He wouldn't read that one thing when they gave it to him and stuff. So I kind of think he's just a little bit slow, But this shows, and these are the Woodward tapes that I'm talking about now. The Woodward tapes show that he knew when he knew and what he knew. Okay.
And the intentionality of his stupidity.
Yeah, so he knew how bad this virus was and how dangerous it was for the American people, and he chose to underplay it and put thousands of lives at risk routinely with his rhetoric over the coming months. Do we have that clip? Do we have a clip of some of the audio?
No, we didn't find it.
We didn't find one? Okay, I can read the quotes.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Just give us a little bit more, you Donald.
The Donald.
Give us some of it.
Well, see, really what it's all about is if you get the hand movements and you get the lips in a certain way, you can really do it. It just comes naturally. It's almost like when you put on another man's shoes and you feel like the other man. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what it's like. So, here was one of the quotes, and this was on February 7th in private to Bob Woodward. This on the record though, so it's not that he Bob Woodward
it's for the
released
book.
confidential stuff. This was on the record, and Trump knew that he was being recorded when he said this. He called the coronavirus more deadly than even your strenuous flu. This is 5% versus 1% or less than 1%. So this is him acknowledging that the death rate is quite a lot higher than the common flu. Less than 2 weeks later, at a rally, he compared it to the flu and called it a hoax.
That was in the same kind of part where he was, saying that it's transmittable by air instead of by touch.
Yeah.
So that was the part where he was confirming all of the deadly things.
So this is the man that told us we didn't need to wear masks when he knew in February that it was transmitted by air, and that the best way to combat an air transmission of a virus is with a mask.
Yeah. The institutions were going back and forth about that for weeks until March.
Yeah, and he made it. Hold on, let me just read a couple more of these quotes, and then I'll get a little bit more into my analysis of it. But here's another one. This is in March. I wanted to play it. I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic. And this is a couple days after he insisted in public that the virus would soon just disappear, like a miracle, as he said.
I still like playing it down.
I still like playing it down. Basically, there's a lot more in those clips, but
I feel like most people have probably heard it on their own time.
yeah, and I mean, on the regular news media is covering it outrageously.
Yeah, so hopefully you've heard it all.
Yeah,
but
what Trump did with this is that he made denying the reality of COVID-19, like a cultish show of loyalty in his base, in his supporters, even though he knew the whole time, all the while, how bad and deadly the virus could be.
Yeah, from his own mouth.
From his own mouth, he said it to Bob Woodward. He knew how bad it was, and he made it like this, like, you know, show support for me by going in and making a scene in your local store that's requiring you to wear a mask.
It's the Democratic hoax.
Deny that the death rate is as high as it is. Say people are getting decapitated and in car crashes and call that a COVID-19 death. He was spinning all of those freaking rumors. He was using that rhetoric to spin all of those rumors. This isn't trying to stop panic, right? A president who's trying to stop panic comes on and says, this is very serious. This is a very serious thing, but we as Americans will handle it together. That's what a president does. A president doesn't lie to his people to keep people from panicking, okay? That's not what they do. That's not what presidents do. Joe Biden said something about that too. He was like, you know, when we had the Ebola crisis, which is, you look back, people were losing their freaking minds over it. They thought it was the second zombie, like, or the zombie apocalypse, you know, coming or whatever.
As
they
a
were losing
9-year-old,
their minds. And Obama comes on and he says, this is very serious. This is a very serious situation. And we got to do what we can to come together as a country. That's what a fucking president does. He doesn't lie and insist that nothing is wrong and that it will just disappear like a miracle. This is intentionally misleading the American people about the most deadly virus we have seen in 100 years.
Yeah.
It's a crime against humanity. He is now responsible for those people who died. Like Kristen Urquiza, right? The girl who spoke at the DNC and said that her dad went out to a karaoke club and died 2 weeks later because he trusted the Donald.
That was his only crime.
Yes.
Yes, it reminds me of what I said earlier. You got to respect the beast that is this virus. Respect what's happening because he didn't. He said it's the new hoax. He tried to sweep it under the rug. That's what he did.
A miracle.
He swept it under the rug. And you're right. It is crimes against humanity because literally stopping, taking a harder stance 2, 3, 4 weeks earlier.
When he knew February 7th.
Yeah.
That's the date. February 7th in private, he said that this is more deadly than even your strenuous flu.
He knew
this
on
is 5%
February 7th.
Versus 1% or even less than 1%. He knew.
And then comes out days later and says the exact opposite.
If this isn't enough, if this isn't damning enough for people,
that's it.
This country is irreparably broken. If his base still comes out and gives him 40% of the vote after this,
yeah. Dude, I mean, this is it. He literally is responsible for deaths.
Yes.
Thousands. Tens of thousands,
I'm not gonna
possibly hundreds of thousands.
I'm not going to give him the whole load. I don't think the whole load is his. But certainly there are people... When you
come out and say it's a hoax?
Yes. Certainly there are people in this country that didn't take it seriously and died as a result because of his language, because of his rhetoric.
It was up to him to set the tone because he was the one that had the information and the microphone as the executive.
And he failed.
As the executive, it's your job to come out and set the tone, set the narrative, set the train tracks of how we're going to get to where we're going. He came out here, destroyed the tone, turned it into a conspiracy, destroyed the train tracks. So, they act like it's over. They act like the coronavirus is over. What if we have a third spike?
Yeah.
And that's because they're still calling it a hoax.
And they still don't even really have a plan. Their plan is to wait for the vaccine still.
Speaking of spike, should I show the...
Not now.
You don't want me to show the chart?
No, go ahead and show it real quick. Show it real quick. We skipped over that earlier, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is from... Yeah, this is the 7-day average line.
So when does that start?
That's March 5th. March 5th.
It starts around, the graph starts at March 3rd.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
the first lines come after March 11th.
You could say that's like a month, that's a month after his February 7th interview.
Yeah, and then this is what we're seeing. A
month where he, postponed it and
this is a direct result.
Gagged.
It's a direct result. And you can I've seen images of the curve and whatever, and it's Trump's rhetoric matched up to the date of the curve. And it's insane. I mean, in that little down period, right, in the valley there, he was saying like, oh, it's going to be over anytime now. We're rounding the corner or whatever. And then bam.
Yeah. Like,
shoots right back up.
that dip right there was when they were like, look, oh, wow, social distancing really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Look, it went away anyway. Ha ha. Look at the liberals. And then 2 weeks later.
I think we'll see probably 2 more spikes. We'll probably see 2 more mountains like that.
I mean, that's why I wanted to cover schools, because it's like we're going into the fall. We're going into, what's considered like, as like a student, this is like life to me, starting school, going back into society and progressing. Like, we are moving into the winter. We're moving into holiday season. We're moving into Thanksgiving,
And this
family
guy is
events.
still talking about it as if it's not even a real thing.
This winter could be crazy.
This winter could be extremely terrible. I mean, if you look at the 1918 Spanish influenza, the H1N1 influenza, I'm going to try to stop calling it the Spanish influenza, but that's what people know it as. It was the winters that we really got hit. The flu season.
Yeah, coronavirus hit after the winter.
Yeah.
You have to remember, like, March.
So we're not even getting into the highly transmittable time of the year with and it's going to get worse. And this is, I wanted to finish off this segment by saying this is just another reason in, the 100,000 reason long list of reasons to vote for Joe Biden in November, because
Swing state.
Joe Biden will not lie to you the way that this guy lied to you. He's not perfect. He's not a perfect dude, but he's not going to lie to you the way that this guy lied to you.
He's not going to lie to you about your health and safety.
No.
He's not going to lie to you about drastic information that can save your life on a daily.
He wouldn't do that. He might lie to you about other things.
Trump was coming out and saying, yo, if you wear a mask, you look like a little B. You look like a P. You look like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
It's a freaking jock for president.
This after him saying that he knew that it was an air transmission virus.
Yeah, the fact that he said that on February 7th, like that'll kill his career. Like, that's unforgivable. Like, we listened to you. We followed your advice.
And especially his base, man. They don't listen to Dr. Fauci. They don't listen to, they don't listen to freaking Cuomo.
They don't listen to anybody.
And they don't listen to anybody but Trump. Nobody but Trump.
Yeah.
And he went up there and fed them false information for months.
His people.
Not me. Because I wasn't listening.
I was not listening.
I knew he was lying.
I had a mask on in February.
Yeah.
I knew of it, I think, the last time I went out was, the 28th, 29th.
Yeah.
After that, it was, COVID time here.
Yeah. So I had my birthday party late February, and that was the last time that, I saw people.
Yeah, that was the last time I saw you for a while.
It was months. And I stayed inside, and, Trump was saying all sorts of crazy shit, but I wasn't listening to him. But the people who voted for him, the people who trust him, were listening to him. And I bet you thousands of those people died during that time period. And, it's just horrible. It's just horrible that he would do that to, we know that he fucks us, the people that didn't vote for him, right? But he did it to his own people.
Yeah, the people
his
that
own
listen.
people. It's awful. Do you have anything else on that, Brandon?
I had something, but I forgot. It's just, it didn't have to be this way. That's what it is. It didn't have to go this way. It could have.
We could have been Rwanda.
Yeah. We could have been any other nation. We could have been Germany. We could have been.
Yeah. So so vote for Joe Biden.
I didn't puppet you out. I didn't wheelchair you out. They might not get it. Let me do the puppet strings. Hold on. Let me do the radical socialist puppet strings.
What did you want me to say again, Mr. Bernie?
Yeah, that's what they see.
Don't worry about it, Joe. We're going to get him in November.
That was great, Verdi, dude.
That's what they see.
Thank you.
Every time you hear the word radical socialist, that's what you should picture. You should picture Joe Biden in a blue shirt and me in a black in this red shirt. Freaking Reds. All right. Well,
but yeah, I think that about wraps up our sandwich. It was a tasty sandwich, especially that last little bit. We got a little fiery. There was like some chilies in there or something.
yeah, I mean, there's not much better than like a peanut butter sandwich and some Corona. Eh? Let's go lunch with a beer. Anybody do that?
No.
You don't drink your lunch with a beer?
No, I don't drink my lunch. I certainly don't drink drink a Corona beer with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But
That's my college online class life.
right. But let's get into the milk. Screw Corona beers. It's a bad
Yeah.
beer.
No,
Let's get into the milk a little bit. Let's
Keep it normal.
Let's talk about what funny things, what interesting things, what strange things are happening in this world that may be a little bit of a palate cleanser. I'm gonna say that every time because it bothers Brandon.
I got something that bothers you.
What's that?
So we're gonna talk about the Travis Scott hamburger.
I told you I would leave, and we talked about the hamburger.
This is not scripted.
He said, "Don't talk about it."
We're not talking about the freaking hamburger. Okay?
I think it's good branding.
It's great branding. I'm not talking about the freaking hamburger. I don't want to
That's how you make millions.
I'm trying to talk about the Mighty Mice. Can I talk about the Mighty Mice?
Personally, I think the Mighty Mice story has got a lot more to it.
I have not heard the Mighty Mice story.
All right, let's talk about the Mighty Mice. Okay.
I don't click on
This
your
is
links.
this is the the mice that were sent to space to the International Space Station, and they were like bulked up mutant mice, right? They like filled them with like steroids and shit, and they're like ripped. Like I'm reading this. This is Associated Press, okay, and this is the first line, like a legit source. This isn't like the Mirror or whatever. Bulked up mutant mighty mice held onto their muscle during a month-long stay at the International Space Station, returning to Earth with their ripped bodybuilder physiques, scientists reported on Monday. So these guys kept their muscle mass in space, which is uncommon. As you know, like
Oh, yeah.
when our astronauts go to space, they lose a lot of their muscle density because they're not, they don't have to push themselves up from gravity. They don't have to, move themselves around with that much force. So they lose a lot of their muscle mass. But these mice kept their muscle mass. So why is that important?
Why is that important is my question.
The findings, they hold promise for
hold
preventing
proms.
muscle and bone loss in astronauts on prolonged space trips, like say the Mars mission, which is planned. So when they go to Mars, it's like 3 years to get there, right? So they want to make sure that there are things that they can do to prevent muscle and bone density loss in the astronauts that partake in this expedition. So that's why it's important. I thought that was cool.
I thought you were gonna say that they hold proms,
No
like mouse.
No space mice proms. this
space
year.
mine proms.
I need to pay attention a little more.
There are no proms during COVID times, my guy.
Mice prom.
Do mice catch the virus?
Fun for the whole family.
Brandon, I think this is really
this
your
is a story. This is a
Thi-
story I saw.
Yeah, this story, I think it's wonderful. So what do you got to say about it?
Right in my lane, I would. No, but
Talk about freedom.
let's talk about Free the Nip and the progress that movement made. No, that's not the intro that I planned for this. But so basically, voting. I'm sure everybody's voted here, and I usually wear like a normal shirt. I usually wear like whatever I put on that morning. But sometimes you might want to go and speak your mind on your shirt, which is actually illegal. I didn't know that.
Yeah, at polling stations, you can't wear political gear. That includes buttons, hats, things like that. So you won't see MAGA hats at the polling station.
And if you do, it's a free reign to fight. 2020.
Don't fight.
Also a fine.
Yeah, it's a fat
Also
fine.
a fine. No, but so in Rhode Island, this woman decides to take matters into her own hands. So this woman goes to vote, and she's wearing a shirt that says, "McCain, a hero. Trump, a zero," which I think is pretty hard, honestly. Like,
Yeah, I like that. I would wear that shirt.
yeah,
I like McCain.
I can imagine that shirt having a good font. So she wears it, and she goes to the polling station, and the people there tell her to take it off. They tell her that, they explain the law that you're not allowed to wear political advertising, I guess, on or inside a polling station. So she says, why I gotta do that? Why I gotta do what you want me to do? And they say, well, you gotta do what I want you to do because that's the law. And she said, I gotta take my shirt off? It's New Hampshire, actually.
Yeah,
Update. New Hampshire. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
So she decides that if they're literally going to make her, not wear the shirt, she takes her shirt off at that exact moment and votes right then and there and walks out like a boss. And I'm like, damn, okay, speak your mind.
At any cost, bro.
And one of the guys who was like there.
And like no bra, right? That's what they're implying?
I assume there was a bra.
Okay.
I mean, but that's my assumption. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but they don't mention it.
They say it says topless.
Yeah.
But I assume that there was a bra probably. But it's funny because one of the guys that was there polling or whatever, he said that, I didn't mean to say all that. Like, she could have just went outside and put the shirt inside out and we would have let her vote. Like, I didn't, mean for all that to happen. So it's like, all right, dude, just that's a good story about American freedom though.
Yeah.
She really voted with no shirt on.
That's how it be sometimes. That's how it got to be sometimes.
Anything to
I
get
think
Trump
we should
out.
all try to vote without our shirts on.
Anything to get Trump
And-
out, right, Peter?
Anything to get that man out of office. For our last milk story, I wanted to talk about a close encounter of the third kind.
The new Steven Spielberg flick coming out of South Carolina.
That's where it
So
happens.
there were these mysterious lights that were flashing above the sky, or in the sky above a city. And people say like aliens or whatever. Like, of course, it was just 6 objects, and they were moving in non-standard patterns, right? So they weren't just planes. And there's a whole bunch of theories on it. Some people say that it was electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere, just sparking off little sparklers. Some people say that it was ice in the atmosphere that was catching the light and reflecting and making it look like. And then
Or it was the third kind.
it was the third kind, which is alien invasion, which is my hope at this point, because that's the only thing that could end 2020 like climactically at this point.
Yeah.
Would be an alien invasion.
A boss fight.
Yes.
Of some sorts.
Some kind of boss fight. Just this guy shows up. We have to like unite against him, Democrats and Republicans, Indian and Chinese, and we have to all support each other to fight off
Urban and rural.
And July 4th will not be remembered as just America's Independence Day, but our Independence Day. I'm quoting that wrong. I love that movie though.
Have you seen a UFO yourself?
One time I thought I did, but I was young, and it was probably just something else, and then I rationalized it as I saw a UFO. I've never seen anything like that.
I've seen a lot of UFOs.
Really?
Yeah. In Carlsbad too.
Wow.
Like clearly like lights flashing on and off and but then
Weird.
I've seen, it's hard to tell every story because I don't, it's just lights in my memory, but
Yeah.
I've seen things that.
I believe it. I mean, there's a place in New Jersey where they have like sightings like 4 times a year, 5 times a year. And there's this apartment complex where everyone in the apartment complex at the same time witnessed the same thing. This is like 500 people witnessed as a big aircraft of some kind flew over, shining lights, lots of crazy shit, big shaking, like there was a 747 flying over them.
Yeah.
Landed in a clearing and then took off again. This is like in the 80s.
Multiple people reported that.
500 people reported that they saw this happen.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that there's some mathematical improbability that there is aliens around that are coming and checking us out and shit.
I just think that once you have shared experiences like that, even stuff where it's like, oh, everybody in this apartment complex had the same dream that we all got probed.
Yes.
That's happened.
Yeah. And
So-
people who didn't know each other, remembering each other from inside the thing when they were abducted and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm in on those conspiracy theories,
it's-
dude. I love the idea of aliens and
There's unexplained out there.
Yes.
That's what I like about, just life in general, I guess. But there's just so much unexplained to be discovered and to be explored still.
Yeah. But yeah, so that concludes our milk, I would say, which means it's time to wrap up our show.
Oh, dude, no. I forgot.
What, the Travis burger?
The Travis burger has 2 slices of cheese on top, 2 slices of cheese on the bottom, 3 pickles. Why do they need cheese on top, cheese on bottom? That's 4 cheeses, 1 meat.
I feel like every single time we do this podcast, I have to get up and leave in the middle of it. There is. I'm not talking about the Travis burger, okay?
He probably got so many millions for that, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great branding. Okay, Brandon, is that what you wanted to hear?
It's not even great branding. He sold out and came up on McDonald's.
On McDonald's.
All he got to do is show up and say, "It's it." He just got to be.
I mean, it was Fortnite first, you know.
All he got to do is show up. Did he even do anything? They just programmed him in there.
Yeah, they just used his.
Being famous is lit.
Now Brandon is.
We wrap up this.
Because if you think about it, you ain't even gotta do anything no more once you got money. You could just double your money every day.
Brandon, put the mic down. Put the mic down. Sit back down in your chair. Let's wrap up the podcast so then we can. Jesus. There we go.
Technical difficulties.
There we go.
So basically, Travis Scott is just Bezos now.
He's got lots of money. All right. Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied?
Yes.
Please refrain from breaking any of the equipment.
Yeah, let's not pour.
Thank you.
To the people still watching, which is none of you now after that outburst, I'm sure.
What's our retention rate, you think?
It's low. It's very low. We appreciate you. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of our faces and hear more of our thoughts. I'd like to say a quick thank you to my kid brother, David Whitehead, again, of course, for editing for us, to Jack Tunney for producing for us.
Hi.
I want to give a shout out to Jerry Perez for his nonstop, constant support of our show and
Definitely.
believing in us.
Correct.
Believing in
Definitely.
us.
We had a meeting with him this week. He was quite supportive of us. We love that man. And of course, to you, the viewer.
The retention rate, baby.
You are the reason that we do what we do and that we love doing what we do. Thanks again, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much. Episode 3.